Good morning, good evening, good night to everyone, depending on where you are. Thank you for taking the time to, click on this webcast and listen to me talk about predictive analytics for roughly half an hour. My name is Leslie Ann Wilson, and I am a product rollout and support engineer at Digicel Group. What that means is I am responsible for supporting both technical and commercial persons and teams with the implementation and operations of technical products. Prior to this, I worked as a systems engineer and as a server administrator in other organizations. What these roles have given me is a unique view of the whole picture of, applications and operations in an enterprise environment. So I can see what it's like when changes are made to the business model and what happens on the back end if there's an issue with a server or with some equipment. And what I've learned about myself with all of these roles is that I am very interested in solving problems. Of late, I've been more interested in how we can use data that is already collected, data that is already available to solve problems, to optimize situations, and to make more informed choices. But enough about me. In this presentation, we are going to look briefly at an introduction of some key terms. After that, we'll move into some of the common uses or the more common uses of predictive analytics. And then we'll focus on the meat of the matter, which is predictive analytics in IT operations and more specifically, application operations. I will be fielding some questions at the end, so if you have any questions, please feel free to send them in the chat. All right, let's get started. So in every organization that is talking about big data nowadays, they really, their initiative looks at one or two broad categories of analytics, either the reporting, visualization, and dashboarding aspect or the predictive analytics aspect. Now, if we look at the introduction of some of the terms here, we're going to focus on the predictive analytics aspect of it because while reports and visualizations and dashboards are great, not knocking them or their usefulness, knowing what can happen in the future seems a little bit more exciting right now to me. So let's start with the definition of advanced analytics. This is defined by Gartner as the autonomous or semi-autonomous examination of data or content using sophisticated techniques and tools, typically beyond those of traditional business intelligence, the traditional business intelligence tools to discover deeper insights, make predictions, or generate recommendations. Stemming from that, we have predictive analytics, which is the branch of advanced analytics, which is used to make predictions about unknown events. And even deeper into that, you have IT operations analytics, which involves collecting of information technology data, for example, log files or data records or configuration file data from different sources, examining the data in a larger context, and proactively identifying or predicting issues that could happen. With ITOA, as we're going to abbreviate it to, you can begin to observe understandable patterns in larger complex sets of data. The outcome of ITOA directly impacts business objectives because you can see the issues as they happen and predict potential problems coming from the insights made on the data. Going on to the next slide, we're going to take a look at possible reasons for lack of analytics. So based on a survey done by Continuity Software, On average, it was determined that only 57% of critical IT issues are detected and addressed before they impact the business. Just 32% of small companies and 47% of large companies attest to using analytic tools for measurement and detection of issues. Of this number, 76% of executives who were using ITOA tools find that the solutions are helpful in the early detection of issues. Now, that sounds great. You're predicting issues before they affect the business, but only 32 and 47% of companies are using them. Why is that? Seems strange to me. But in my preparation for this presentation, I kind of got more insight as to why. For one, there is a lot of different definitions of predictive analytics and IT operational analytics out there, some of which may not be clear, some contradict each other, and as a result, it's all a little confusing. So I think that some of the reasons for lack of use of analytics in IT organizations would be misunderstanding what technology is actually available, a lack of understanding of the requirements for use. For example, what exactly you're going to be analyzing, what data would be required, what would make it useful, a lack of clear information and definitions on what is available, the inability possibly to convince the decision makers of the value of the software or the tools, and maybe a little fear of irrelevancy on the part of administrators or persons who are currently responsible for doing each part of the process in IT operations analytics. Typically, when we speak about the term predictive analytics, what comes to mind are, the customer-facing solutions, the things that, have been kind of advertised and romanticized, for lack of a better word, in the business sector. So customer retention, anti-churn initiatives, things that will help you keep customers, direct marketing, so you know exactly what the customer is doing at that point, where they are on a web page, you pop up an ad to them, you know where they're likely to click based on their last choices. Product recommendation, so based on things that they have bought. I'm sure you would have been on Amazon looking for something, and you go to your inbox and there'll be an ad at the side that is referencing some things that you might have looked at on Amazon, or something you watched in Netflix, or something you bought on Kindle. Product recommendation based on something that you might have looked at before. Credit scoring, or debtor risk, analysis of debtor risk, is another one of the ways where predictive analytics is normally used or normally referred to. We have here behavior-based advertising, which pretty much goes back to some of the product recommendation that I mentioned, or behaviors, your online behaviors, where you click, what you're interested in, what you search for, and risk modeling, which is most commonly used by insurance agencies to determine who should get insurance and who should not. These are some of the more common uses of predictive analytics and the more popular uses. However, we're going to look now at predictive analytics in application operation, which is the meat of the matter. And we're going to be looking at it from the IT operations analytics perspective. So not as broad as the general topic of predictive analytics, but specifically collecting IT information or data from information technology sources to correlate and come up with insights. So there are generally 3 stages of predictive analytics in IT operations. There is the descriptive stage, which will tell you what happened. So that would go to the dashboarding and KPIs and analysis of past logs for you to understand why an outage actually happened. So it would help you to put the pieces of the puzzle together to figure out, well, we had an outage last week. What was the cause of that? Then you have predictive, which is based on past trends and based on application learning and learning of the environment. This is what is likely to happen. So will we run out of memory if the trend of usage continues at this value? Will we need more equipment soon? Will we need an additional data center? The predictive is what is going to happen based on trends, based on current usage, based on how things were at this time, maybe a year ago. It depends on the amount of data you put in there. And prescriptive, which would be what actions to take based on what has happened, what's going to happen. It gives you an idea of what choices to make. Based on all of these, we can kind of get an idea of the value of analytics in application operations. So if we have features like log monitoring and root cause analysis, proactive control of service performance and availability, network performance monitoring, and continuous correlation for multi-tier tracking, then there are ways that we can see value in that. For example, if you have a billing platform or a purchasing platform, which a customer has multiple ways to interact with. So, for example, they can browse to a web page, or they can send a code from their mobile device, and it will allow them to pay their bill. Let's say you're having an issue. So you have some standards in place, and you're expecting at this time of the day to have 20 transactions per second happening. When you're looking at your monitoring, your continuous correlation monitoring, and your real-time monitoring platforms, you're noticing that you're only seeing 10 transactions. Now, no one has called you to say there's an issue, so you're not getting any reports from the contact center yet, but you have noticed that your activity is below the norm for this time. Then you start to look into, the different applications the different applications that are involved in this process. So since you would be tracking this, you probably drill down into that particular item that flashes up on your alert, and you would see both channels for paying your bill. So you're going to see the web page, and you're going to see the performance of the mobile app. You're also going to see the performance of the billing platform itself. So if you look at the billing platform itself and you're seeing that it's processing all the requests that it should be, every request that comes with it processes successfully, then it's not likely that that's the issue. You can then start looking at the two applications or the two access points for customers to start paying their bills. So if you look at the first one, which is the web page, which is getting the normal amount of traffic for this period of time, then it's also not likely that it is at fault. So you now look at the feed for the mobile application, and you notice, well, the traffic there is 0. So now you drill into the alerts for the mobile application, which, if you're monitoring all the log information coming from that application, You see maybe where else that application, what other applications it interfaces with itself that are not a part of the billing process, to see if there are any alerts on any of those applications. You'll be able to more quickly pinpoint the actual slowdown, the cause of the slowdown, before it starts to impact the business. And in a situation where you have a call center, calls to the customer care center usually are at a cost to the business, because you have to pay someone to be there, pay someone to answer the phone. You're probably paying for the connections to the line as well. So if you can identify the issue before customers start calling in, you've already saved at the contact center engagement point, and you save revenue, because I'm sure bill payment is something that no one wants to have not working. You're directly collecting revenue at that point. So you've now fixed this before tens of thousands of people are not able to successfully pay their bills. And you also save on some overhead, some operating expenses, because you don't have to pay 5 and 6 people to sit down at each of their different systems in the process to figure out, is there a problem here? Is there a problem there? Oh no, I don't see anything here. This could be an issue. So you saved on some overtime, you saved on the overhead time that it would take to fix the problem, and you saved on customer pain and negative experiences. This to me seems invaluable. You can't really put a price tag on something like that. It's easier than logging into 12 servers to scour 12 different sets of log files. You can just see the data presented in front of you, and bam, you found the problem just like that. Now, as I mentioned, when I was preparing for the presentation, I tried to get an idea of how many players are really in the IT operational analytics field. And I came up with 3 major players. IBM, who are doing wonderful things with their different applications. They have several different products that can be used in operational analytics. So there's a log analysis feature. There is also something that is specific to their storage. They have a whole package. You could purchase the whole package actually, and you would be able to deploy everything in your environment. They can get insights for virtual machines, for the cloud, IBM Z system sources. They have a really concise looking package with lots of options. Additionally, EMC has also gotten into the operations IT analytics space. They also have a big data solution, they call it, to transform your business, where they offer data lakes or cloud storage solutions. And HP also has a operations analytics solution. But there are other, smaller organizations that have applications that can be used to assist with operations analytics. For example, Stream, which is, I believe, formerly Web Action. They have some log monitoring solutions which allow you to get real-time data. So you're processing the log files while they're streaming to configure alerts and possibly point the data to your big data architecture after that. So, it would format the log files for you and present them nicely to the big data application. I also saw Cloud Monitoring. They are also an organization that has quite a bit to offer in terms of operations analytics. They also have quite a bit of information on their website, which will, kind of help you to understand what it is that you want, what is available, what the reports say, what the surveys say, and kind of, point you in the right direction. These are just, a few of the ones that I found while I was doing my preparations and my research for this presentation. So based on what I've said and what I've read and all of that, the steps to IT operational improvement and revenue benefit is you acknowledge that you have a problem. You acknowledge that quite possibly you're not being as efficient as you could be with your data analysis and your log monitoring, your KPIs and stuff like that. Clearly define your use case. What is it that you want to be monitoring and to analyze more clearly? What, based on your definition of your use case, you can then move to identify a suitable vendor or a suitable solution, or you can probably set up a proof of concept for multiple solutions if that's available, and try to figure out which one works best for your environment and your budget. You implement it, and you reap the benefits. Thank you for listening. I can field any questions if there are any questions at this time. If there are no questions, included some links for us to keep the conversation going, have further discussion about it. I have my LinkedIn page there, and I also have a Wise-like link where you can post questions. It also links to my Twitter, so you'll be able to at me if you want to have any further discussion on this. And thank you for listening.